Witajcie na naszym kanale. Dzisiaj opowiemy wam historię, która brzmi jak opowieść z Księgi Legend, ale wydarzyła się naprawdę w polskich Karpatach. To opowieść o Drwalu, którego przypadkowe odkrycie zmieniło nie tylko jego życie, ale także nasze zrozumienie tajemnic, które kryją nasze ancestralne lasy. Jest rok 2018, a Władysław Kowalski, doświadczony drwal z żywca, pracuje w głębi Beskidów, gdy natyka się na coś, co może przepisać historię całego regionu. Na pozornie zwykłym drzewie odkrywa grawerunek, który nie powinien tam istnieć. Starożytne symbole wyrzeźbione w drewnie, które według wszelkich reguł powinny były dawno zniknąć. Ale ten grawerunek to dopiero początek. Za nim kryje się tajemnica, która sięga czasów, gdy nasze lasy były miejscem pradawnych rytuałów, forgotten ceremonies i wiedzy, która została utracona wraz z ostatnimi kapłanami starych wierzeń. Tajemnica, która może zmienić nasze rozumienie polskiej historii sprzed chrystianizacji. Co sprawiło, że zwykły drwal postanowił porzucić wszystko i poświęcić lata na odkrycie prawdy o tym, co znalazł? Jakie siły próbowały go powstrzymać przed ujawnieniem swoich odkryć? I dlaczego to, co znalazł w głębi karpackich lasów, może być kluczem do pradawnej mądrości naszych przodków? Jeśli fascynują was historie o ukrytych tajemnicach, ancient mysteries i o ludziach, którzy nie boją się szukać prawdy nawet tam, gdzie inni nie mają odwagi zaglądać, koniecznie subskrybujcie nasz kanał i zostawcie łapkę w górę. W komentarzach napiszcie, czy w waszej okolicy krążą legendy o starożytnych tajemnicach. Bardzo chcemy poznać wasze lokalne historie. Czy jesteście gotowi na podróż w głąb polskich lasów, gdzie modern science spotyka się z pradawnymi tajemnicami? Zapraszamy was do Beskidów, gdzie jeden człowiek odkrył coś, co może zmienić nasze rozumienie przeszłości Polski. Władysław Kowalski urodził się w 1965 roku w małej wiosce pod Żywcem, w rodzinie, która od pokoleń zajmowała się pracą w lasach. Jego dziadek, Józef Kowalski, był jednym z ostatnich traditional forest dwellers, ludzi, którzy znali każdy zakątek karpackich lasów, każdą leśną ścieżkę, każde miejsce, gdzie rosły rare herbs i gdzie mieszkały dzikie zwierzęta. Dziadek opowiadał mi historie o lasach, które brzmiały jak fairy tales, wspomina Władysław. Mówił o miejscach, gdzie drzewa rosną w perfect circles, o kamieniach ułożonych w geometric patterns, o źródłach, których woda ma healing properties. Jako dziecko myślałem, że to tylko local folklore. Władysław zaczął pracować w lesie, gdy miał 16 lat. Najpierw pomagał ojcu przy prostych pracach. Potem nauczył się obsługiwać professional chainsaw i heavy machinery. Przez ponad 30 lat was one z najbardziej doświadczonych drwali w całym regionie Beskidów. Znał każdy las, każde drzewo, każdy forest road w promieniu 50 kilometrów od swojej wioski. Władek miał coś, czego nie można nauczyć w żadnej forest school, mówi jego długoletni współpracownik, Marek Wojciechowski. On actually communicated with lasem. Potrafił powiedzieć, które drzewo jest chore, zanim ktokolwiek zauważył symptoms. Wiedział, gdzie znajdzie najlepsze drewno, jakby las mu to whispered. Praca drwala w polskich Karpatach to nie jest easy job. Dense forests, steep terrain, unpredictable weather i constant danger related to heavy machinery. Ale dla Władysława las był drugim domem. Mogłem spędzić weeks w lesie sam bez problemów, mówi. Las był moim office, moim sanctuary i moją passion. W 2016 roku Władysław otrzymał assignment do pracy w szczególnie remote part Beskidów, niedaleko granicy ze Słowacją. Local authorities zlecili wycięcie several hectares starego lasu, który miał zostać przekształcony na ski resort. To był beautiful, ancient forest, wspomina Władysław. Niektóre drzewa miały ponad 200 lat. Żal mi było je wycinać. 15 października 2016 roku, podczas routine work, Władysław natknął się na coś extraordinary. Pracował przy particularly large oak tree, gdy zauważył coś unusual na jego bark. Początkowo myślałem, że to natural formations w korze, opowiada. Ale gdy looked closer, zauważyłem, że to były deliberate carvings. Na korze ancient oak tree, około 2 metrów above ground, były carved intricate symbols. Nie były to typical hunter's marks czy forest workers' initials. To były complex geometric patterns, intertwined z stylized representations zwierząt i mysterious characters, które wyglądały jak ancient script. Nigdy wcześniej nie widziałem niczego takiego, przyznaje Władysław. Carvings były bardzo stare, ale somehow perfectly preserved. Bark drzewa somehow protected je od weather i time. Władysław immediately przerwał pracę i zaczął careful examination całego drzewa. Gdy oglądał tree more carefully, odkrył, że carvings weren't limited do jednej strony. Around całej circumference oak tree, na wysokości od 2 do 3 metrów, były carved dziesiątki different symbols. Niektóre przedstawiały animals, bears, wolves, eagles. Inne były geometric patterns, spirals, triangles, complex interlocking shapes. A jeszcze inne wyglądały jak attempts at script writing. Najbardziej fascinating były te symbols, które wyglądały jak letters, opisuje Władysław. Ale to nie był żaden alfabet, który znałem. Nie Latin, nie Cyrillic, not even runic. To było something completely different. Władysław photographed wszystkie carvings z różnych angles i różnych times of day, żeby catch wszystkie details. Potem zaczął searching obszar around oak tree for podobne markings. I found them. Na kilku innych old trees w immediate vicinity były similar symbols, though not as elaborate jako na original oak. Gdy realized, że to nie jest isolated incident, ale part większego pattern, knew, że musiałem report this discovery, mówi Władysław. Ale również knew, że jeśli powiem local authorities, they might just cut down all trees anyway. I ignore historical significance. Instead, powiadomienia authorities, Władysław decided to conduct własny investigation. Spent następne weekends studying wszystkie trees w area, mapping locations, all carvings. I trying to understand, czy there was jakiś system czy pattern do their distribution. Odkryłem, że carved trees formed rough circle, około 100 metrów w diameter, explains Władysław. W center tego circle było clearing z unusually flat stone, która również miała some worn symbols. To było clear, że this was some kind of significant site. Władysław began researching local history, trying to find any records of podobne discoveries czy legends związane z tym specific area. Talked to oldest residents w nearest villages, searched through local archives, now it contacted regional museums. Mówi, ale nobody had heard of anything like this. Jednak więcej researched, tym bardziej fascinated stawał się. Local folklore had hints of ancient gatherings of deep forest, stories about miejsc where old gods były worshipped before Christianity arrived w Poland. Ale these were zawsze treated jako mere legends, not historical facts. Zacząłem understand, że maybe natrafiłem na evidence of Polsce's pre-Christian past, realizes Władysław. Something that had been hidden in forest for centuries, waiting for someone to find it. Władysław postanowił poświęcić wszystkie wolne chwile na głębsze badanie swojego odkrycia. Każdego weekendu, po finished work, jechał do Mysterious Forest Site z aparatem fotograficznym, noc i podstawowymi measuring tools. Jego żona Teresa początkowo była skeptical o jego nowej obsesji. Władek zawsze był passionate o lesie, ale to było something różne, wspomina Teresa. Przychodził do domu excited, pokazywał mi te strange photos, opowiadał o theories, jakie miał. I thought początkowo, że maybe too much time sam w lesie affected jego imagination. Ale gdy Teresa sama visited site, her skepticism zmieniła się w fascination. Gdy actually saw the carvings, understood, że to nie była Władkowa imagination. To było real, ancient i definitely man-made. Someone potrzebował a lot of time i skill, żeby create coś takiego. Władysław's investigation rozwijała się systematically. Created detailed maps showing location każdego carved tree, cataloged wszystkie symbols według their apparent themes. I began trying to identify patterns of their arrangement. Discovered, że niektóre symbols powtarzały się frequently, gdy others były completely unique. Most fascinating były te animal representations, explains Władysław. Bears były most common, ale there były również wolves, eagles, even co wyglądało jak ancient aurochs. Te animals miały special significance w pre-Christian Slavic beliefs. Research przez local libraries i internet archives revealed, że similar discoveries były made w innych parts Eastern Europe. Archaeological sites w Czech Republic, Slovakia, nawet w some remote areas, Russia had yielded evidence pre-Christian ritual sites z similar symbolic carvings. learned że these types of forest sanctuaries były common among ancient Slavic tribes, mówi Władysław. They believed że forests były home to powerful spirits i gods, I specific places były designated jako sacred for ceremonies I offerings. Ale closest historical parallel Władysław could find było medieval chronicles describing ancient Polish tribes who conducted rituals sacred groves before conversion to Christianity. These chronicles, written przez Christian monks, usually describe such practices jako pagan superstitions, które needed to be eliminated. Problem was że these chronicles were very vague about locations to specific practices, explains Władysław. They were written przez people who wanted to erase these traditions, not preserve them, so actual archaeological evidence było extremely rare. After Miesiąc's own research, Władysław decided że needed professional help. Contacted Professor Anna Nowak z Kraków University, który specialized w early medieval Polish history i archaeology. Initially, Professor Nowak była skeptical about amateurs' claims. Receive calls from people claiming to have found ancient artifacts quite regularly, admits Professor Nowak. Usually turns out to be recent carvings, natural rock formations, czy misidentified historical objects. Ale something about pana Kowalskiego description seemed potentially legitimate. Professor Nowak agreed to visit Site W November 2018. Co-found there completely changed her perspective na Władysław's discovery. Moment I saw the carvings, knew that this was potentially zeer belangrijke archaeological find, recalls Professor Nowak. The symbols, their arrangement, the apparent age, everything suggested authentic pre-Christian sacred site. Most convincing by what the tree ring analysis, explains Professor Nowak. The carvings were clearly made when trees były much younger. Based na tree growth patterns, could estimate that some symbols były carved at least 300 years ago, possibly much older. Professor Nowak immediately began formal documentation process. Photographed wszystkie carvings with professional equipment, took measurements, collected bark samples for detailed analysis. I began preparing official report for appropriate archaeological authorities. The most intriguing aspect było the script-like symbols, notes Professor Nowak. They definitely resembled attempts at written communication. AL didn't match any known historical alphabets used W Poland. Could be extremely early attempt at native writing system, possibly predating adoption Latin alphabet. Podczas professional documentation, team odkrył additional evidence supporting theories the site was ancient sacred location. Ground-penetrating radar revealed buried stone structures underneath forest floor. Arranged W patterns consistent Z ancient ritual sites found elsewhere W Europe. Found evidence of deliberately placed stones forming circles I alignments, reports Professor Nowak. Also discovered traces of ancient fire pits, definitely much older than any modern camping, logging activity. This site was clearly used for significant gatherings over a long period of time. But most exciting discovery came when team extended search due wider area around original carved trees, found additional carved stones partially buried under forest debris, or as traces of ancient pathways connecting different parts of site. Realized that what Władysław discovered wasn't just isolated group of carved trees, explains Professor Nowak, was Kałkowski complex of ritual sites, probably used przez local communities for centuries before Christianity became dominant region. Historical research supported archaeological evidence. Medieval documents from nearby monastery mentioned conflicts z local populations who continued to practice heathen rituals deep forests długo after official conversion to Christianity. These documents provided historical context for sto archaeological evidence was revealing. Found records of church officials complaining about local people who continued to gather remote forest locations for superstitious practices, movie Professor Nowak. These complaints continued well into 14th century, suggesting that ancient traditions persisted much longer than previously thought. Władysław's discovery was beginning to attract attention from wider academic community. Specialists with Slavic paganism, medieval archaeology, early European writing systems were expressing interest, visiting Site I contributing to research. Never expected że my routine work w lesie would lead to such important historical discovery, reflects Władysław. Ale also never expected wszystkie complications że would follow. Some people were very unhappy about what we were uncovering. Pierwszym sign of problems came when local church authorities learnt about discovery. Local priest, Father Kowalczyk, expressed concerns about archaeological work being conducted na what he considered potentially dangerous site associated z pagan practices. Reakcja lokalnej społeczności na odkrycie Władysława była deeply divided. Podczas gdy niektórzy mieszkańcy byli excited about potential historical significance ich regionu, others were concerned about potential disruptions que archaeological investigation might bring to their quiet area. Suddenly our small village był w center of academic attention, mówi Teresa Kowalska. Professors z universities, journalists, even some strange people who claim to be spiritual seekers, zaczęli arriving, asking questions about Władkowa discovery. Nie everyone was happy about this attention. Local mayor Jan Szczepański initially welcomed archaeological investigation, hoping że historical discovery might bring tourism revenue to economically struggling region. Thought że maybe could develop site jako tourist attraction, bring jobs to area, explains Mayor Szczepański. El soon realized że things were much more complicated. Problem arose when formal archaeological excavation revealed extent of ancient site. Ground-penetrating radar preliminary digging showed że buried structures extended far beyond initially discovered carved trees, potentially covering several hectares of forest. Discovered że what Władysław found was just tip of iceberg, reports Professor Nowak. Full excavation would require years of work, significant funding, potentially declaration całego area jako protected archaeological zone. This would have major implications for local land use development plans. Local landowners, including family who had commissioned original tree cutting for ski resort development, were suddenly faced the possibility that their property might be designated jako archaeological site, limiting their development options. Invested significant money of planning ski resort development, explains developer Andrzej Wojcik. Suddenly being told że można develop property because of some old carvings trees was very frustrating. These archaeological claims were threatening our legitimate business plans. Tension increased when some local residents began experiencing unusual phenomena near discovery site. Several people reported strange dreams, unexplained sounds, forest, a feeling of being watched when walking near carved trees. People the village started talking about place being cursed, haunted, recalls local resident Maria Kowalczykova. Some said a disturbing ancient site had awakened spirits brought bad luck to area. There were stories about unusual animal behavior, technical equipment malfunctioning near site. Father Kowalczyk used these reports to campaign against continued archaeological work. Argued the site was associated z pagan practices that were contrary to Christian faith, explains Mayor Szczepański. Said that continuing to study these devil worship artifacts could bring spiritual danger to community. Meanwhile, Władysław was experiencing personal consequences of his discovery. Some neighbors who had previously been friendly became cold and distant. Anonymous notes were left at his house, warning him to stop meddling with things better left alone. Most difficult part wasn't the scientific bureaucratic challenges, admits Władysław, was losing friendships feeling isolated wone community. People I had known for decades suddenly treated me like outsider because I had discovered something they feared. However, support came from unexpected sources. Academic community recognized significance of Władysław's discovery. Several prominent archaeologists publicly defended importance of continued research. International scholars began expressing interest of visiting site. Site was potentially rewriting understanding of pre-Christian religious practices Central Europe, explains Dr. Klaus Müller, German specialist Ancient European religions. Evidence suggested much more sophisticated spiritual traditions among Slavic peoples than previously documented. This discovery could change academic understanding of early European cultural development. Media attention intensified when journalist Z major Polish newspaper wrote feature article about discovery. Ancient Polish sacred grove discovered by local woodsmen. Article generated national interest. Brought dozens of visitors to small village. Suddenly, our phone was ringing constantly, journalists, researchers, even film crews wanting to do stories about discovery, recalls Teresa. Our quiet life was completely disrupted. Władek went from being unknown forest worker to being famous across Poland. Fame brought both opportunities and problems. Władysław was invited to speak at academic conferences. Interviewed przez national television, I offered book deals to tell his story. Ale also attracted attention from less legitimate sources. Started receiving visits from people claiming to be alternative historians, conspiracy theorists, various groups with unusual spiritual beliefs, describes Władysław. Some wanted to conduct their own research at site, which usually involved strange rituals or ceremonies that had nothing to do with serious archaeology. Professor Nowak worked to maintain scientific integrity of investigation while managing increased public interest. Established formal protocols for site visits, implemented security measures to prevent unauthorized access. I continued systematic documentation work. Challenge was maintaining academic standards while dealing media attention, local politics, various groups trying to use discovery for their own purposes, explains Professor Nowak. Site was archaeologically significant. Ale also became symbol for various cultural and political agendas. Local authorities struggled to balance different interests: economic development versus archaeological preservation, scientific research versus religious concerns, privacy versus public interest, tourism opportunities versus community disruption. Had to mediate between developers who wanted to minimize significance of discovery, church officials who opposed continued investigation, academics who wanted unlimited research access, residents who just wanted their normal lives back, explains Mayor Szczepański. Władysław found himself center of all these conflicts, often feeling overwhelmed pres consequences of his simple decision to examine strange carvings on tree bark. Sometimes wished I had just continued with cutting trees. I never mentioned what I found, admits Władysław. Life was certainly simpler before. But deeper investigations were revealing that site was even more significant than initially realized. Carbon dating of organic materials found during excavation suggested some ritual activity at location dated back over 1,000 years. Artifact analysis revealed connections to other known archaeological sites across Central Europe. We're discovering site wasn't isolated phenomenon, part of broader network of sacred sites used pres ancient Slavic communities, reports Professor Nowak. This discovery was contributing to understanding of sophisticated religious and cultural systems existed pre-Christian Poland. As research continued, it became clear that Władysław's accidental discovery had opened door to rewriting significant chapters of Polish history. Ancient secrets hidden forest for centuries were finally being revealed. Chai community was ready, chai not. W miarę jak badania archeologiczne w miejscu odkrycia Władysława się rozwijały, zaczęły się wyłaniać coraz bardziej extraordinary details of ancient site. Professor Nowak's team now expanded to include specialists z several European universities, conducted systematic excavation that revealed sophistication far exceeding initial expectations. The buried stone structures weren't random arrangements, explains Dr. Katarzyna Wiśniewska, archaeoastronomer who joined research team. They were precisely aligned astronomical phenomena, solstices, equinoxes, certain star positions. This indicated advanced understanding of astronomy among ancient builders. Excavation revealed the primary stone circle had been constructed multiple phases over several centuries. Each construction phase corresponded to different periods pre-Christian Slavic history, suggesting the site remained important cultural center for extended time period. Found evidence the site was continuously used from approximately 8th century through at least 14th century, reports Professor Nowak. This covers period from early Slavic settlement through Christianization of Poland and beyond. Site apparently remained sacred even after official religious conversion. Most remarkable discovery was elaborate underground chamber. Partially natural cave expanded pres-human construction. Chamber contained carved stone altars, elaborate symbolic decorations, evidence of ceremonial activities spanning centuries. Underground chamber was clearly central focus of ritual complex, describes Dr. Wiśniewska. Astronomical alignments all pointed toward chamber entrance, suggesting the most important ceremonies took place here. Carvings inside chamber were far more elaborate than anything found in the surface. Chamber carvings included extensive examples of script-like symbols that continued to puzzle linguistic experts. Characters appeared to represent earliest known attempt at writing system developed as Polish Slavic tribes, potentially predating adoption of Latin alphabet as several centuries. If these symbols represent authentic early Slavic writing system, it would be revolutionary discovery for understanding medieval European literacy, explains Dr. Hans Zimmermann, specialist W. Early European scripts from Vienna University. Could completely change academic understanding of intellectual development among Slavic peoples. Analysis of artifacts found W chamber provided insights into elaborate ritual practices that took place at site. Ceremonial objects included bronze and silver items with sophisticated metalworking techniques, carved bone instruments, ceramic vessels with symbolic decorations matching chamber carvings. Quality of craftsmanship was remarkable, notes Dr. Wisniewska. These weren't crude, barbarian artifacts. They demonstrated sophisticated artistic traditions, technical skills. Ancient communities who used this site were far more culturally advanced than previously assumed. Botanical analysis of organic remains revealed ancient ceremonies involved complex use of medicinal psychoactive plants. Residue analysis showed evidence of substances would have induced altered states of consciousness during ritual activities. Found evidence ritual practitioners had extensive knowledge of plant medicines. Reports Dr. Maria Olszewska, ethnobotanist studying organic remains. They were using combinations of plants would facilitate visionary experiences, healing practices, by spiritual communication. This knowledge required sophisticated understanding of botanical chemistry. Chemical analysis also revealed some carvings had been treated with organic compounds that acted as preservatives, explaining Jajic exceptional preservation despite exposure to centuries of weather. Ancient ritual practitioners had deliberately ensured their symbolic messages would survive for future generations. Archaeological evidence was supported previously overlooked historical documents descobertas W monastery archives. Medieval chronicles, when re-examined W light of site discoveries, provided contextual information about conflict between Christian authorities persistent pagan practices. Found records of multiple church campaigns to suppress heretical gatherings. W-specific forest locations match our site coordinates, explains Professor Nowak. These documents describe elaborate pagan rituals, symbolic carvings, underground ceremonial chambers, exactly what we're finding archaeologically. Research team also discovered site wasn't isolated phenomenon. Ground-penetrating radar surveys of broader region revealed similar structures at several other locations, suggesting extensive network of related sacred sites connected ancient pathway system. Discovered JR site was central hub of complex network of ritual locations covering hundreds of square kilometers, reports Dr. Wisniewska. Ancient communities had created sophisticated sacred landscape integrated W natural forest environment. However, as research progressed, opposition to continued excavation intensified. Local church authorities, supported by some community members, launched formal complaints with government officials, arguing the archaeological work was disturbing graves by promoting anti-Christian activities. Situation became increasingly politicized, admits Professor Nowak. Some groups were using discovery to promote nationalist ideology, others to criticize Catholic Church's role WW Polish history, others to support various New Age beliefs. Academic research was getting lost. Cultural wars. Anonymous threats against research team members increased. Equipment was vandalized. Access roads were blocked. Several team members reported feeling unsafe working at site. Local police provided security. Tensions continued to escalate. Most concerning by attempts to damage site itself, describes Władysław, who had become unofficial guardian of discovery. Found evidence someone had tried to deface some carvings, probably attempting to eliminate evidence. Had to install security cameras. Begin 24-hour monitoring. International attention brought both support, complications. UNESCO expressed interest in potential World Heritage Site designation. Quetta would provide protection. Ale also imposed strict access limitations. Tourism developers saw economic opportunities. Ale conservationists worried about site preservation. Challenge was balancing legitimate scientific research, historical preservation, local community needs, various political pressures, explains Mayor Szczepański. Everyone had strong opinions about what should be done, while a few people understood actual complexity of situation. Media coverage became increasingly sensationalized. Some outlets promoting conspiracy theories o government cover-ups, ancient alien connections, to supernatural phenomena. Serious archaeological research was often overshadowed przez spectacular claims. Academic community struggled to maintain public focus na legitimate historical significance while dealing with the explosion of pseudoscientific theories, cultural appropriation, notes Professor Nowak. Discovery was being used to support every imaginable agenda except careful historical understanding. Despite challenges, research continued revealing remarkable insights into pre-Christian Polish culture. Ancient site was demonstrating that Slavic communities had sophisticated religious practices, advanced astronomical knowledge, cultural continuity that survived centuries of political and religious change. Władysław's discovery was opening window into lost world of ancient Poland, summarizes Dr. Wiśniewska. We're learning that our ancestors were far more culturally sophisticated than previously imagined. This knowledge was worth fighting to preserve. Do końca 2019 roku, rok po pierwszym odkryciu Władysława, site stał się w center of national controversy, że rozeszła się daleko beyond original archaeological importance. Co zaczęło się jako simple discovery of carved tree symbols, rozwinęło się w complex dispute involving religious authorities, government officials, academic institutions i various activist groups. Nigdy nie anticipated, że moje odkrycie stanie się so politicized, reflects Władysław. Wanted only to understand what I had found, I preserve it till future generations. Instead became symbol W cultural battles I never intended to join. Central controversy focused na interpretation of discoveries, their implications dla understanding Polish cultural identity. Some groups argued that evidence of sophisticated pre-Christian culture proved that Poland had rich indigenous traditions that were suppressed przez forced Christianization. Others maintained that such interpretations were anti-Catholic and undermined Poland's Christian heritage. Site became focal point dla people trying to rewrite Polish history według various ideological agendas, explains Professor Nowak. Some wanted to use discovery to promote paganism, others to criticize Catholic Church, still others to support nationalist mythology about ancient Polish greatness. Academic facts were being distorted to support predetermined conclusions. Government officials found themselves difficult position. Ministry of Culture recognized legitimate archaeological significance of site. I approved continued research funding. Ali also faced pressure religious groups. Conservative politicians who opposed what they saw, jako anti-Christian activities. Had to balance scientific freedom political realities, admits Dr. Jerzy Kowalczyk, Ministry of Culture official overseeing archaeological projects. Discovery was scientifically important, also generating significant social conflict. Our job was to support legitimate research while maintaining social harmony. Church authorities issued formal statement expressing concerns about archaeological work. Worried the investigation of pagan ritual sites might encourage neo-pagan movements, undermine Christian faith among believers, explains Bishop Andrzej Nowak. Called the careful consideration of social implications alongside scientific research. International academic community defended importance of continued research. European archaeological associations issued statements supporting nauczny value of discovery, criticizing attempts to limit investigation based na religious or political considerations. This type of prehistoric religious site is extremely rare. Central Europe, emphasizes Dr. Miller. Restricting research because of contemporary religious concerns would be serious loss dla understanding of European cultural development. Academic freedom requires protection from political interference. Meanwhile, Władysław continued his own research despite growing pressures. spent countless hours documenting additional details about site, exploring connections to other historical sources, by trying to understand meaning behind ancient symbols. He had started his investigation. Felt personal responsibility to preserve. I understand what I had discovered, explains Władysław. These ancient people had gone to great effort to leave messages to future generations. Could not allow their voices to be silenced as contemporary controversies. Private investigation led Władysław to previously unknown historical sources of regional archives. Discovered old folk stories, traditional songs, local legends. He referenced ancient gatherings forest locations matching his discovery site. Realized that local folklore contained actual historical memories passed down through generations, describes Władysław. Stories that people considered fairy tales were actually fragmented memories of real historical events places. Of particular significance by which traditional songs, recorded as ethnographers, early 20th century, who described ritual gatherings na sacred hill deep forest, the ancient ones left their marks na trees. These songs provided cultural context, delay archaeological discoveries. I suggested knowledge of site had survived oral tradition long after actual ritual practices ended. Folk memory was more accurate than written historical records, notes Professor Nowak. People had remembered location significance of site through centuries of political religious change. Even when official sources ignored suppressed this information. Research team began systematic collection of local folklore related to site, interviewed elderly residents, recorded traditional stories. I documented local place names that might preserve ancient geographical knowledge. Discovered that area had multiple traditional names referring to sacred grove, ancestor place, old worship site, reports Dr. Wiśniewska. Local people had never completely forgotten that this location was historically significant. This ethnographic research revealed that some families region maintained traditional knowledge about site even into contemporary period. Several elderly residents admitted that they had known about carved trees stone circles. Had kept this knowledge secret after some of potential conflicts predominantly Catholic community. Some local people had been quietly maintaining chesty sites decades, discovers Władysław. They would occasionally visit to leave flowers. Perform simple rituals, treating places as connection to their ancestors. They were grateful that archaeological research was finally recognizing importance of their heritage. However, revelation that some community members had maintained pagan-influenced traditions provoked additional controversy. Church authorities expressed increased concerns about potential influence of archaeological work na local religious practices. Worried that legitimizing pre-Christian sites might encourage return to pagan practices among some believers, explains Father Kowalczyk. Felt responsibility to protect community from spiritual influences that could undermine their Christian faith. Tensions reached climax through December 2019 when several incidents occurred simultaneously. Unknown individuals attempted to vandalize Nogel carvings at main site. Research equipment was stolen. Anonymous threats against team members escalated to include specific personal details. Situation had become dangerous, admits Professor Nowak. We're dealing with Tolka's cultural opposition, unless people willing to use intimidation violence to stop our research. Had to consider suspending work for safety reasons. Security measures were increased, but this further escalated tensions in the community. Police presence at peaceful archaeological site created atmosphere of conflict. I reinforced perceptions the research team was causing problems in the local area. Last thing wanted was to turn scientific investigation into armed camp, explains Władysław. I also couldn't allow people to destroy evidence that might rewrite understanding of Polish history. These discoveries belonged not just to local community, to all humanity. Crisis reached turning point when several prominent Polish intellectuals, including writers, historians, artists, issued public letter supporting archaeological research, criticizing attempts to suppress scientific investigation. Academic freedom, historical truth cannot be subordinated to contemporary political religious preferences, stated letter, signed as over 100 prominent figures. Discovery at this site represents opportunity to expand understanding of Poland's rich cultural heritage. must protect researchers' right to pursue truth wherever it leads. Na początku 2020 roku sytuacja wokół odkrycia Władysława wzięła dramatic turn, gdy International Community of Scholars zainteresowała się controversy surrounding site. European Union Archaeological Commission announced investigation into allegations, że research freedom była being compromised przez political pressures. Received complaints, że legitimate archaeological research of Poland była being restricted due to religious I political interference, explains Dr. Sarah Williams, EU Archaeological Commission representative. This type of situation sets dangerous precedent for academic freedom in member states. EU involvement brought both opportunities and complications. International support strengthened position research team, ale also intensified accusations, że foreign organizations were interfering w Polish internal affairs. Some critics argued that EU involvement proved że archaeological project była part of broader attack na Polish sovereignty I traditional values, notes Major Szczepański. Situation became even more politicized than before. However, international attention also brought resources I expertise that significantly advanced research capabilities. Scientists z Oxford, Cambridge, Stockholm, several German universities joined investigation, bringing advanced analytical equipment, specialized knowledge. International collaboration allowed us to conduct analyses that weren't possible as local resources alone, explains Professor Nowak. Could finally answer some crucial questions about age, construction techniques, cultural contexts of discoveries. Advanced radiocarbon dating confirmed site usage extended back at least 1,200 years, making it one of oldest documented pre-Christian sacred sites w Poland. Isotope analysis of metal artifacts revealed trade connections as distant regions, indicating that ancient communities were part of extensive cultural networks. Discoveries proved that ancient Slavic communities w area weren't isolated to primitive, reports Dr. Wiśniewska. They were connected to sophisticated cultural networks spanning much of Central I Northern Europe. Their spiritual practices were part of broader religious traditions that influenced entire regions. Linguistic analysis of script-like carvings revealed connections to runic alphabets, used w Scandinavia and other symbol systems found at archaeological sites, w Czech Republic and Slovakia. This suggested that ancient Slavic communities had developed writing systems based on broader European symbolic traditions. Script elements found at site represent transitional phase between purely symbolic representation, early alphabetic writing, explains Dr. Zimmerman. This discovery fills important gap w understanding evolution of literacy w Central Europe. DNA analysis of organic remains found w ceremonial chamber revealed surprisingly diverse population who had used site over centuries. Genetic markers showed connections not только s local Slavic populations, ale also as Germanic, Celtic, even Scandinavian groups. Site appeared to serve as gathering place for people's diverse cultural backgrounds, notes Dr. Olszewska. Ancient religious practices here were apparently inclusive, bringing together different communities to shared spiritual activities. Most remarkable discovery came w spring 2020, when ground-penetrating radar revealed extensive underground tunnel system connecting main ceremonial chamber to several satellite locations. These tunnels, partially natural cave systems expanded human construction, created elaborate sacred complex much larger than initially realized. Underground network was engineered masterpiece, describes structural engineer Dr. Tomasz Kowalski, who was brought w to assess tunnel stability. Ancient builders had sophisticated understanding of geology engineering. Tunnel system was designed to last centuries. She indeed had remained structurally sound for over 1,000 years. Exploration of tunnel system revealed additional ceremonial chambers, each decorated elaborate carvings containing artifacts indicating different specialized ritual functions. One chamber appeared dedicated to healing practices, another to astronomical observations, third to initiation ceremonies. Each chamber served a different function w elaborate ritual complex, explains Dr. Wiśniewska. Ancient practitioners had created sophisticated religious center, different spiritual practical needs could be addressed. This wasn't primitive paganism, a highly organized spiritual system. Discovery of tunnel system finally convinced many skeptics the site was genuinely significant archaeological find. Even some religious leaders acknowledged the discoveries demonstrated remarkable cultural achievements of pre-Christian communities. Had to recognize the ancient people who created this complex were demonstrating sophisticated spiritual and intellectual capabilities, admits Bishop Nowak. While couldn't support contemporary pagan practices, could acknowledge historical importance of discoveries. International media coverage shifted from sensational stories about modern controversy to serious examination of archaeological significance. National Geographic, BBC, iDiscovery Channel produced documentaries about discoveries, bringing global attention to sites' historical importance. Media focus shifted from political conflict to actual historical discoveries, notes Professor Nowak. This helped reduce local tensions and redirect attention toward legitimate scientific research. Władysław found himself in a unique position as original discoverer who had become international celebrity. Received invitations to speak at universities across Europe. Was consulted by museums developing exhibitions about ancient European religions. I was offered position as consultant for archaeological projects other countries. Never imagined looking at unusual tree carving would lead to such extraordinary opportunities, reflects Władysław. But also never forgot these discoveries weren't about me. They were about understanding voices of ancient people who had left their messages forest. Tourism to region increased significantly as international interest site grew. Local businesses began developing services to visitors, creating employment opportunities. Show helped offset economic losses. Restricted development around archaeological zone. Archaeological discovery became economic asset rather than economic burden, notes Mayor Skripański. Tourism revenue site visitors exceeded projections Ski resort development had originally been planned. By late 2020, site had received preliminary recognition UNESCO as location of outstanding universal value. Formal World Heritage designation would provide international protection and recognition, ensuring discoveries would be preserved for future generations. UNESCO recognition validated significance of Władysław's discovery on a global scale, explains Professor Nowak. Ancient people who created this site could never have imagined their work would eventually be recognized as part of world's cultural heritage. Local opposition gradually decreased as community realized archaeological significance brought benefits rather than problems. Many residents became proud their area contained such historically important site. People began to understand discoveries were part of their heritage, no threat to it, observes Teresa Kowalska. Ancient traditions were revealed, weren't competing's contemporary faith, providing deeper understanding of full richness of local cultural history. Władysław continued working as site guardian and consultant, ensuring research remained focused on understanding ancient peoples rather than promoting contemporary agendas. His simple decision to examine unusual carvings had opened window into lost world, was enriching understanding of Polish history. Do 2021 roku, 3 lata po first discovery, Władysław's finding had transformed local curiosity into internationally recognized archaeological treasure. Site had been officially designated as Beskidy Ancient Sacred Complex. Research revealed much more than anyone had initially imagined. The scope of discovery far exceeded our wildest expectations, admits Professor Nowak. What Władysław found was no individual site, a central element of vast sacred landscape who extended across entire region. Ancient communities had created network of connected spiritual sites integrated with natural environment. Advanced satellite imaging ground-penetrating radar surveys revealed the primary site was connected to dozens of smaller locations throughout Beskidy Mountains. Ancient pathways, marked by stone alignments additional carved trees, linked network of ritual locations spanning over 100 square kilometers. Discovered ancient people had created sophisticated pilgrimage network, explains Dr. Wiśniewska. Different sites served different functions. Seasonal celebrations, healing rituals, astronomical observations, community gatherings. Całe region was designed as integrated sacred landscape. Underwater archaeology of local streams and lakes revealed additional surprises. Ancient people had created elaborate offering sites of water sources, Carefully placed stone arrangements metal objects who had remained preserved of anaerobic conditions the centuries. Water sites contained some of most elaborate artifacts we've discovered, reports Dr. Olszewska. Ceremonial weapons, jewelry, ritual vessels, all indicating water played crucial role of ancient spiritual practices. These weren't accidental losses, ale deliberate offerings to spiritual forces. Ethnographic research expanded to include traditional communities throughout Central Europe, revealing similar sacred landscapes existed of other mountainous regions. Ancient Slavic, Germanic, Celtic communities had created comparable networks of forest sanctuaries connected by pilgrim routes. Our discovery was part of broader European phenomenon, notes Dr. Muller. Ancient communities across continent were creating similar sacred landscapes adapted to local geographical conditions. Beskidi complex represents one of best preserved examples of this tradition. Botanical studies revealed ancient forest management had been designed to maintain specific plant communities required ritual practices. Medicinal herbs, ceremonial woods, psychoactive plants were cultivated of designated areas around sacred sites. Ancient practitioners were sophisticated forest managers, explains Dr. Olszewska. They understood ecological relationships maintained forest composition, who supported their spiritual medicinal needs. Modern forest management could learn as their techniques. Archaeological evidence showed sacred landscape continued evolving even after official Christianization. Medieval documents revealed that early Christian communities adapted existing sites, incorporating pre-Christian locations into new religious practices rather than completely abandoning them. Transition from paganism to Christianity was much more gradual and complex than previously understood, notes Professor Nowak. Ancient sacred sites weren't destroyed, ale reinterpreted within Christian framework. This allowed cultural continuity during period of religious change. Discovery of medieval carvings superimposed in ancient symbols showed how different religious traditions had coexisted, influenced each other. Christian symbols were carved alongside pagan images, suggesting syncretic practices show combined elements as both traditions. Found evidence to early Christianity region incorporated significant elements pre-Christian spiritual traditions, explains Dr. Zimmerman. Rather than complete replacement, there was blending show created unique regional religious practices. International collaboration expanded to include specialists of traditional ecological knowledge, who worked with local communities to document surviving traditional practices related to ancient sites. Many local customs, previously dismissed as folklore, were revealed to have deep historical connections due to archaeological discoveries. Local communities had maintained fragmentary knowledge of ancient practices through generations of oral tradition, discovers Dr. Wisniewska. Traditional customs related to forest gathering, seasonal celebrations, healing practices preserved authentic elements of pre-Christian spirituality. Educational programs were developed to share discoveries local schools communities. Ancient history of region was integrated into local curriculum, helping students understand rich cultural heritage of their area. Children were fascinated to learn that their backyard contained thousand-year-old spiritual complex, notes local teacher Maria Kowalczykova. Discoveries gave them new appreciation to the history environment of their region. Economic impact of archaeological site continued expanding. Tourism revenue reached several million euros annually, supporting local businesses, creating employment opportunities previously economically struggling region. Archaeological tourism became major industry of our area, explains Mayor Szczepański. Hotels, restaurants, guide services, souvenir shops, all benefited international visitors coming to see discoveries. Ancient spiritual site was bringing modern economic benefits. Władysław established educational foundation dedicated to preserving traditional forest knowledge, supporting archaeological research. Foundation offered scholarships to students interested in archaeology, forestry, traditional crafts, ensuring cultural knowledge would be transmitted to future generations. Wanted to ensure Pana discoveries would benefit local communities the generations to come, explains Władysław. Ancient people had left their knowledge for us to discover. Our responsibility was to preserve share that knowledge responsibly. Research facility was constructed near site to house laboratories, Visitor Center, educational programs. Facility was designed to minimize environmental impact while providing necessary infrastructure dla continuing research public access. Research Center was designed to demonstrate sustainable approaches to archaeological tourism. Describes facility architect Dr. Anna Kowalska. Building incorporated traditional materials, construction techniques while providing modern scientific capabilities. International recognition continued expanding. Site was featured major archaeological publications. Included university curricula worldwide. Cited as example of best practices of community-based archaeological research. Beskidi Sacred Complex became modeled through how archaeological discoveries can bring together scientific research, cultural preservation, community development, notes EU Archaeological Commission Representative Williams. However, most significant impact was na understanding of ancient European spiritual traditions. Discoveries provided unprecedented insight into sophisticated religious practices who had been previously unknown to poorly understood. Site demonstrated Pune pre-Christian communities of Central Europe had highly developed spiritual systems integrated astronomical knowledge, ecological understanding, ritual practices, artistic traditions, summarizes Dr. Wiśniewska. These weren't primitive pagans, ale sophisticated cultures as complex worldviews. As research continued, Władysław reflected na unexpected path his life had taken, since Togo simple decision to examine unusual tree carving. Do końca 2021 roku Władysław Kowalski już nie był zwykłym drwalem z małej wioski pod Żywcem. Stał się uznanym ekspertem w dziedzinie pradawnej kultury karpackiej, konsultantem w międzynarodowych projektach archeologicznych i strażnikiem jednego z najważniejszych odkryć historycznych w Polsce. Ale mimo wszystkich zmian w jego życiu, wciąż codziennie chodził do lasu. Las jest moim nauczycielem, mówił Władysław do Visiting Journalists. To w lesie nauczyłem się cierpliwości, obserwacji, szacunku dla przyrody. Te umiejętności pozwoliły mi dostrzec to, co inni przegapili przez stulecia. Nie mogę przestać słuchać tego, co las ma do powiedzenia. Jego codzienna rutyna zaczynała się o świcie, gdy szedł sprawdzać Archaeological Site i okoliczne tereny w poszukiwaniu nowych odkryć. Teresa często towarzyszyła mu w tych porannych wędrówkach, także ona nauczyła się rozpoznawać znaki, które mogły wskazywać na ancient activity. Władysław nauczył mnie patrzeć na las innymi oczami, wyjaśnia Teresa. Wcześniej widziałam tylko drzewa, krzewy, kamienie. Teraz widzę potential history ukrytą w każdym unusual formation, każdym strange arrangement of stones, każdej nietypowej tree growth pattern. Te codzienne explorations doprowadziły do kolejnych remarkable discoveries. W springu 2021, podczas routine walk w lesie około 5 km od main site, Władysław zauważył series of stones arranged w linear pattern, partially hidden przez forest undergrowth. Te stones były arranged zbyt systematically, żeby być natural formation, describes Władysław. Były podobnej wielkości, placed w regular intervals i extended w straight line przez about 200 meters. Clearly człowiek made, ale bardzo stare. Investigation revealed, że stone alignment był ancient processional pathway connecting main sacred complex to previously unknown satellite site. Archaeological team excavated route, I discovered że pathway had been constructed with sophisticated engineering techniques, including drainage systems, to prevent erosion during heavy rains. Ancient builders were remarkable engineers, notes Dr. Kowalski, structural engineer. Pathway was designed to last centuries and remain passable all weather conditions. Construction techniques were more advanced than some modern trail building. Following pathway led to discovery of hilltop location panoramic views across entire Beskidi region. Site contained remains of ancient observatory, Gaji stone markers aligned the major astronomical events throughout year. Observatory site demonstrated that ancient practitioners had precise knowledge of celestial cycles, explains Dr. Wiśniewska. Could track solstices, equinoxes, lunar phases, I even predict eclipses. Their calendar system was integrated as both spiritual practices and practical agricultural needs. Discovery of observatory revolutionized understanding of ancient knowledge systems. Analysis showed the astronomical observations were recorded using sophisticated notation system carved into stone surfaces. These calculations were accurate enough to predict celestial events years in advance. Mathematical precision was extraordinary, reports Dr. Zimmerman. Ancient astronomers were working the accuracy comparable to medieval European monasteries, but several centuries earlier. This challenges assumptions about development of scientific knowledge w Central Europe. But Władysław's most significant recent discovery came of late 2021, when he found evidence that ancient sacred network extended far beyond Polish borders. While researching traditional folk songs in neighboring Slovakia, identified references to sacred grove Gadzi ancestors speak, who corresponded to geographical features visible from Beskidi Observatory. Realized that ancient spiritual network wasn't limited by modern national boundaries, explains Władysław. These mountains were shared cultural landscape the communities on both sides of current border. Sacred sites were connected across what we now consider separate countries. Cross-border research began collaborations the Slovak archaeologists, who had discovered similar sites, Tatra Mountains showed architectural and symbolic connections to Beskidi complex. Ground-penetrating radar revealed that ancient pathways extended across modern international border. Ancient pilgrimage network spanned hundreds of kilometers, reports Slovak archaeologist Dr. Josef Novak. People would travel from distant communities to participate with seasonal ceremonies at major sacred sites. This required sophisticated organizational system and peaceful cooperation between different tribal groups. International significance of Discovery Network attracted attention from UNESCO, European Union cultural heritage programs, and archaeological societies worldwide. Beskidi Sacred Complex was recognized as anchor site WW, što appeared to be one of largest ancient ritual landscapes ever documented w Europe. Discovery was rewriting understanding of ancient European cultural development, notes EU Archaeological Commission. Evidence showed that pre-Christian communities had created sophisticated networks of cooperation and cultural exchange that crossed tribal and geographical boundaries. Władysław began traveling internationally to share his knowledge as other researchers and communities. Spoke at conferences of Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, and Slovakia, often emphasizing importance of local knowledge and community involvement. Archaeological research. Academic experts bring scientific methods and analytical capabilities, Władysław told conference audience в Vienna. Alle local people bring generational knowledge and deep connection to landscape. Best discoveries happen when these perspectives work together. His presentations always emphasized that ancient spiritual practices weren't primitive superstitions, ale sophisticated systems for understanding natural world and human place within it. Our ancestors were careful observers, explained Władysław. They understood ecological relationships, astronomical cycles, healing properties of plants. Social cooperation ways that we're only beginning to appreciate. Educational programs expanded, do include international exchanges. Students at universities across Europe came to study at Beskidi site, while local students traveled to other countries to learn about similar archaeological discoveries. Exchange programs pokazały, że ancient cultural connections are being renewed through modern educational cooperation, notes Professor Nowak. Students from different countries were working together to understand shared European heritage. Meanwhile, Teresa developed expertise in traditional plant knowledge preserved local folklore. Workings ethnobotanist Dr. Olszewska documented medicinal II ceremonial uses of over 100 local plants had been maintained through oral tradition. Women in our region had preserved remarkable knowledge about forest plants, explains Teresa. Remedies for specific illnesses, plants, the spiritual protection, herbs for different stages of life. This knowledge connected directly to archaeological evidence of ancient healing practices. Her work led to publication of book, Forgotten Wisdom, Traditional Plant Knowledge of Beskidi Mountains. She became international reference la ethnobotanical research. Book demonstrated that living traditional knowledge could provide crucial context to understanding archaeological discoveries. As 2021 ended, Władysław reflected on an incredible journey she had begun, the simple examination of unusual tree carving. Never imagined that my curiosity about strange symbols would lead to такой incredible adventure, admits Władysław. Ale każdy discovery teaches us that there's always more to learn, more to understand about our ancestors and our connection to natural world. W 2022 roku, 4 lata po First Discovery, życie Władysława nabrało rytm, półbalansował między his traditional forest work i międzynarodową recognition jako archaeological discoverer. Ale najważniejsze changes były happening w jego własnej community, gdzie initial resistance do jego odkryć was gradually transforming into pride i understanding. People w the village zaczęli realize that Władek's discovery was bringing honor to our region, observes Mayor Szczepański. International visitors, scholarly publications, government recognition. Suddenly our small community was known worldwide for positive reasons. This changed attitudes significantly. Local schools incorporated discovery story into their curricula. Z Władysław serving jako guest lecturer, jak i shared experience z students. Young people who had grown up hearing his story began developing their own interest to history, archaeology, and traditional knowledge. Władysław showed our children that ordinary person can make extraordinary discoveries, notes teacher Maria Kowalczykowa. His story demonstrates curiosity, persistence, and respect that tradition can lead to amazing opportunities. Many students now want to study archaeology and history. One particularly gifted student, 16-year-old Anna Wiśniewska, no relation to Dr. Wiśniewska, developed exceptional talent for recognizing archaeological features w landscape. Under Władysław's guidance, she discovered 2 additional carved trees that had been overlooked by professional surveys. Anna has natural eye to archaeological details, explains Władysław. Reminds me of myself at her age. Sees things that others miss. She's applying to university archaeology programs. He has excellent chances for scholarships based on her contributions to research. Anna's discoveries led to expansion of site boundaries, a revelation that ancient sacred complex was even larger than previously realized. Her findings were published European archaeological journals, making her youngest contributor at a major research publication Poland. Anna's success inspired other young people region, notes Professor Nowak. Several students have begun conducting their own research projects related to local history and traditional knowledge. Władysław's discovery created ripple effect, who is developing new generation of researchers. International collaboration expanded, to include digital documentation project, show would preserve site pentru future generations using advanced 3D scanning and virtual reality technologies. Władysław worked closely with technical teams to ensure that digital records captured all subtle details who had been crucial to his original discovery. Technology allows us to preserve exact details of carvings, stone arrangements, and landscape features, explains digital archaeologist Dr. Tomasz Nowak. Future researchers will be able to examine site, precision impossible, the traditional documentation methods. Virtual reality reconstructions allowed visitors to experience site, jak it might have appeared during ancient ceremonial activities. Based on archaeological evidence, computer models showed how torchlit processions would have moved through forest pathways między different ritual locations. VR experience helps people understand kako ancient ceremonies connected different parts of landscape, describes Dr. Wiśniewska. Visitors can follow ancient pathways, see seasonal celebrations, and experience spiritual significance pu site held le pre-Christian communities. However, most meaningful development for Władysław was reconciliation's local church authorities. After years of tension, Bishop Nowak visited site. He acknowledged Hogi archaeological discoveries, demonstrated remarkable cultural achievements that were part of Poland's historical heritage. Came to understand that honoring ancestors' cultural achievements doesn't threaten contemporary faith, admits Bishop Nowak. These discoveries show Romana our region has deep spiritual traditions that preceded Christianity. I contributed to rich cultural heritage, can appreciate historical significance while maintaining our current beliefs. Bishop's visit led to development of educational programs who presented archaeological discoveries in context of cultural evolution rather than religious conflict. Local church began incorporating appreciation of regional history into community programs. found ways to celebrate our ancestors' wisdom without compromising our current spiritual beliefs, explains Father Kowalczyk. Ancient people were seeking spiritual understanding, using knowledge available to them. Their discoveries enrich, rather than threaten, our contemporary faith. This reconciliation had profound impact on community harmony. Tensions who had divided residents for years were gradually healed as people found common ground. Prides of their region's historical significance. Community learned can honor different aspects of heritage simultaneously, observes Teresa. Ancient spiritual sites, medieval Christian traditions, modern educational achievements all contribute to our identity. Don't have to choose between them. Economic benefits of archaeological tourism continued expanding. Local businesses developed specialized services through archaeological visitors, creating employment for people with different skills and interests. Some residents became certified tour guides, others developed traditional crafts based on ancient designs. Tourism brought opportunities for different types of people, notes Major Szczepański. Not just manual labor, ale również intellectual work, artistic expression, educational services. Discovery created diverse economic opportunities that matched different talents and interests. Władysław established apprenticeship program that combined traditional forest skills with archaeological knowledge. Young people learned forestry techniques, plant identification, traditional crafts. The archaeological survey methods of integrated curriculum honored both ancient and modern knowledge. Want to ensure that traditional skills don't disappear of modern world, explains Władysław. Forest knowledge that allowed me to make discovery needs to be passed to future generations. But also want to combine traditional wisdom to modern scientific understanding. International recognition reached new level when Władysław was invited to speak at World Archaeological Congress of Prague. His presentation on community-based discovery and cultural heritage preservation was attended by researchers from over 30 countries. Władysław's story demonstrates power of local knowledge and community involvement in archaeological research, noted Congress organizer Dr. Ewa Swoboda. His experience provides model through other researchers working for communities worldwide. But despite international fame, Władysław remained committed to his daily walks through forest. Each morning, he continued searching through new clues, he might expand understanding of ancient cultural landscape. Forest still has more secrets to share, says Władysław. Every unusual stone arrangement, every old tree interesting features, every traditional story može lead to new discoveries. My journey started one carved tree. No forest contains thousands of trees. Never know what might be waiting to be found. His commitment to ongoing discovery inspired others to develop similar observational skills. Community members began reporting unusual findings, leading to several additional archaeological investigations. Forest that once seemed familiar to local residents was revealing new mysteries regularly. Władysław taught us that discovery is attitude, nay single event, reflects Teresa. When approach forest curiosity and respect, always can find something new to learn. Ancient people left many messages for us to discover, but only if we're paying attention. W 2023 roku, 5 lat po his pierwszego Discovery, Władysław Kowalski otrzymał najwyższy honor, jakiego mógł się spodziewać. European Archaeological Association named him Honorary Fellow. Pierwszy raz w historii ta distinction została przyznana person without formal academic training. Ceremonia odbyła się w Ancient Amphitheater w Rome, gdzie Władysław stood przed audience of world's leading archaeologists. Pan Kowalski represents ideal collaboration między traditional knowledge i modern science, powiedział dr Antonio Rossi, President European Archaeological Association, podczas ceremonii. His discovery demonstrates the most important archaeological insights często come from people who truly understand landscape they inhabit. W his acceptance speech, Władysław thanked wszystkich, którzy supported his journey, ale emphasized that discovery belonged not to him alone, ale to wszystkich communities who had preserved cultural memory across centuries. Ancient people, którzy left these carvings, weren't trying to speak tylko to me. powiedział Władysław to international audience. They were leaving messages dla all future generations. My role was just to notice yichni words. I help others hear yichni voices. Real credit belongs to ancestors. Koji never forgot importance of listening to forest. Speech was translated into dozen languages and broadcast na archaeological websites worldwide. Władysław's story became inspiration para other community-based researchers. I przykład toho, jak ordinary people can contribute to understanding human history. But return to Poland brought news that would create Władysław's greatest challenge yet. Government officials informed him that site was being considered para inclusion major infrastructure development project. Proposed highway route would pass directly through part of archaeological complex. Economic planners argued that tourism revenue from site couldn't justify blocking major transportation improvement, explains government representative Dr. Jerzy Kowalski. Highway would connect isolated mountain communities to Większe markets. I provide significant economic benefits dla entire region. Environmental impact studies showed that highway construction would destroy several satellite sites. I disrupt ancient pathway network, show connected different parts of ritual complex. Engineering reports indicated alternative routes would cost significantly more. I present greater construction challenges. Faced choice is meju immediate economic development and preservation of thousand-year-old cultural heritage, describes Mayor Szczepański. Both options had strong arguments. I passionate supporters. Community was torn meju competing visions of future. Władysław organized opposition to highway project, workings archaeologists, environmental groups, cultural heritage organizations to demonstrate significance of Sztu would be lost. International pressure mounted kiedy UNESCO threatened to revoke World Heritage Site consideration if development proceeded. This wasn't just local issue anymore, notes Professor Nowak. Site had international significance to example of ancient European cultural development. Destroying it would be loss la all humanity, need just the local community. Counter-arguments came from business leaders, labor unions, residents koitu needed better transportation access, the economic opportunities. Some people accused Władysław of prioritizing ancient history over living community needs. Władek became symbol of conflict między tradition and progress, observes Teresa. Some neighbors koitu had supported his discovery work, now felt he was blocking improvements Sztu could benefit ich children's futures. Was very difficult personal situation. Controversy escalated. Kagatu environmental activists from across Europe arrived to protest highway construction. Local residents became frustrated outside interference w ich community decisions. Some blamed Władysław dla attracting unwanted attention. Never intended to become political activist, admits Władysław. Just wanted to protect ancient site that had given me so much understanding I purpose. But realized discovery comes the responsibility to preserve to you found. Solution emerged through unexpected source. International Engineering Consortium proposed innovative design would tunnel highway under most sensitive archaeological areas, preserving surface sites while providing needed transportation infrastructure. Tunneling technology allowed compromise między development and preservation, explains lead engineer Dr. Stefan Müller. More expensive than surface highway. No international cultural heritage funds could offset additional costs. Both economic and archaeological needs could be satisfied. Tunnel design incorporated viewing stations where travelers could observe archaeological sites during underground passage. Educational displays would explain significance of cultural landscape above them. Creating unique museum experience integrated transportation infrastructure. Tunnel project became modeled less sustainable development. Sztu respects cultural heritage while meeting modern economic needs, notes EU Representative Williams. Demonstrated creative engineering can find solutions seemed impossible. Construction began late 2023. Says Władysław serving to cultural heritage consultant, qui ensured Sztu archaeological sites were protected during building process. Project provided employment to local residents while preserving ancient discoveries. Realized development and preservation don't have to be enemies, reflects Władysław. Creative solutions can honor both past and future when people are willing to work together. I find innovative approaches. During tunnel construction, Additional archaeological discoveries were made in excavated areas. Previously unknown ceremonial chambers I artifact deposits provided new insights into ancient cultural practices. I expanded understanding of site's historical significance. Construction project, to initially threatened site, actually led to valuable new discoveries, reports Dr. Wiśniewska. Proves that careful development can contribute to archaeological knowledge when properly managed. Anna Wiśniewska, girl who had discovered additional carved trees, received scholarship to study archaeological engineering, new academic field, combines preservation techniques, infrastructure development. Her career goal was to work in projects, protected cultural heritage during construction activities. Władysław showed that ordinary person can make extraordinary contributions to understanding history, says Anna. Now want to use education to help other communities protect yichni cultural treasures while building modern infrastructure. International recognition of Władysław's work continued expanding. Documentary film about his discovery was produced by National Geographic. Book about Jigo journey was translated into dozen languages. Archaeological textbooks included his story example of community-based research. Władysław's legacy extend far beyond original discovery, summarizes Professor Nowak. He demonstrated archaeological research belongs not just to academics, no to communities who lives as cultural heritage every day. His approach changed how archaeology worldwide think about community collaboration. As 2023 ended, Władysław continued daily walks forest, still searching the new discoveries, still listening to ancient voices might be trying to tell him. Forest had revealed its first secrets 5 years earlier, continued to yield new insights for those willing to pay attention. Forest taught me a discovery is never finished, reflects Władysław. Each generation must learn to listen to messages that ancestors left za us. My journey started as one carved tree. No forest contains thousands of trees. Never know what stories are still waiting to be heard. His daily walks now included young people from community who were learning to see forest as his eyes, recognizing signs of ancient activity, appreciating connections into natural and cultural heritage. Understanding oni were inheritors of wisdom, stretched back thousands of years. Most important discovery wasn't ancient carvings, concludes Władysław. Was learning past and present are connected. Ancestors still speak to those willing to listen. Ordinary people can become guardians of extraordinary heritage. Historia Władysława Kowalskiego became legend of archaeological communities worldwide. Story of how curiosity, respect for tradition, and willingness to listen to landscape can lead to discoveries, transform understanding of human history. Beskidi Ancient Sacred Complex było officially designated UNESCO World Heritage Site w 2024, ensuring that ancient spiritual landscape would be preserved za future generations. Site attracts researchers and visitors z całego świata, contributing to both archaeological knowledge and local economic development. Władysław continues working as guardian of site and consultant dla other community-based archaeological projects. His approach, combining traditional forest knowledge as modern scientific methods, became modeled to researchers worldwide. Young people region continue discovering new archaeological features, inspired by Władysław's example, trained observational skills, allow them to recognize signs of ancient activity. Forest revealed its secrets to one curious Drwal, continues yielding discoveries to each new generation willing to pay attention. Ancient voices spoke through carved symbols. Oak trees 5 years ago continue whispering to those who know how to listen. A forest keeps its watch. Protecting other secrets await future discoverers brave enough to look beyond surface appearances. You hear wisdom that ancestors left hidden in plain sight.